gonna tell you a story. Welcome to Story Time with Al. I was thinking of this time of doubt. Okay, so I'm vacuuming the living room. And for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes into vacuuming my living room, I realized I had just subconsciously spent those 20 minutes wondering, what if none of this is true? Like, what if, though? Like, what if we just made ourselves believe this because it sounds nice? And now this is so dumb because, joining the church for me, I literally gave up everything. Every one of my family members, like, they just turned around. Years of silence from a lot of them. I went through and gave up, everything. And I got to a point, I remember having a thought of like, well, geez, if I did all of that, like, I'm good. Like, nothing can take me away from this gospel because look at all the things I just gave up for it. Like, I'm fine. And then I caught myself vacuuming my living room, subconsciously having these idle thoughts of, what if this isn't true? What if we really can live however we want? And, like, we just can, and it's just fine. Like, what if it's all in our heads? You know what I mean? What if there's not really a way to know what comes next, and all of this is for nothing, and all of our efforts are in vain to this supposed God just because it sounds nice to have one, And it's just interesting. It's interesting living in the time that we do. You know what I mean? Like, who knew how easy it would be to be influenced by the confusion and the hurt of the world? How dangerously subtle the adversary is to burrow into our thoughts, to have us think that way and not even realizing it, that the adversary could be part of our subconscious thinking. Who knew how dangerously subtle that the adversary wouldn't be to get us to do bad things, but to just do nothing even? That would be his most dangerous weapon on us. Like, who knew how dictating the worldly trends could be with our time, and who knew how damaging the distractions of good things are from the best things? Let me come back to that thought later, because there will be a full circle moment in all of this. There will be a point to my storytelling. Maybe. Just kidding. I'm like, who knew the subtleties of the adversary could be so damaging and yet so hard to pick up on sometimes? Who knew how easy it would be to get distracted? How easy it is to lose focus? How easy it is to lose sight of the simple truths of the gospel? How easy it is to second guess? How easy it is to let passing time dim our promises and our blessings? Now, I have found myself asking, is this worth it? Like, is this it? Is this really it? Mixed priorities that leave our soul feeling unsatisfied, passing time where we have nothing to show for our efforts, ongoing trials that have left us stretched so thin, answers that haven't come yet, promised blessings that haven't been fulfilled yet. How much longer can I stand this? Is it worth it? Is it real? Satan, he gets in our heads and we don't even recognize him quickly enough. And then sometimes we just let him stay. We let him linger. I know why. So all of this, anyways, I'm thinking about James Covel from our last night conversation. He's our modern day version of the rich young ruler. And I've kind of still been thinking about him and that question we talked about last night. How could we have read 40 verses. No, not 40 verses. How many verses was yesterday's chapter? How can we read 24 verses of just beautiful blessings and then we find out he just walks away from them? And I keep thinking about him and the question of how can we just walk away from beautiful blessings? And I thought of the time of me vacuuming, and I think of all of the subtleties of the adversary burrowing into our thoughts and letting those questions linger and letting him linger and distract us, and just all of these things where we walk away from blessings every day and we don't even realize it. And so I know why giving it to God fully is so hard. Because in theory, it shouldn't be hard. Giving it to an all-knowing, perfect, all-powerful being shouldn't be hard. That should be the easy part, right? Like if a perfect God is in control, like, yeah, you do it then, but it's not that easy. It should be, but it's not. But I think about that. Why is giving it to a perfect God so hard? Well, an unexpected outcome. It could mean giving up our desires. It could mean, you don't know where any of it will lead to. What if you don't like where he brings you? If you give it to God, what's he going to do with it? What if you don't like what he does with it? You know what I mean? You feel safer when you're in control of your own life. You know what I mean? You feel like you can somehow manage some damage control if you are in charge of things. I think that is why giving it to God is so hard, because we can't manage things, anyways, an unknown variable, that is what brings the fear and the hesitation, and that is the playground for the adversary. And like I said, the adversary, he usually gets to me more in my thoughts and hypotheticals more than anything else. Thoughts that could have power to immobilize us and stop us from making even a step in the right direction, simply because it's new or uncharted path for us. Thoughts and doubts that can be so crippling that we become heavy enough for no movement. And when we're not moving, how many times have we talked about this? When we're not moving, it's the adversary winning. If we're standing still, that is the adversary winning. And then, if he really gets to us, we can start being immobilized by worst case scenarios and those hypotheticals. Fear and wonder can be so powerful. That's what turns Lot's wife into a pillar of salt. It destroyed her. And it wasn't necessarily that she looked back that it destroyed her, but because she looked back longingly. I mean, she entertained those dangerous and immobilizing thoughts from the adversary that she started to believe that nothing lie ahead could possibly be as good as what she was giving up. And maybe that was the thought that James Covel had. Maybe nothing that lie ahead of him could possibly be as good as what he was leaving behind. And him specifically was 40 years of ministering in the Methodist Church, this community that he's built up and loved. Maybe that's why he couldn't move forward with it, because he had that thought, the thought that Lot's wife had. She doubted the Lord's ability to bring her somewhere better. Almost word for word from the chapter that we read last night in section 39 was a blessing greater than he had ever known. I got my scriptures. Was from the blessing. It's so contradictory. Anyways. Now, let me tell you about my friend. This was years ago, and I've never forgotten this. But this is when we lived in Arizona 2 times. And when we left the first time, I was so upset. I never wanted to leave. I felt like I left myself in Arizona, and I would have done anything to go back. And then I hear my friend, and she's living in Arizona, so I'm already like, well, good for her. It's not me. I wish it was. And she's showing me her house on FaceTime, and her house is just so nice. And she bought it. She owned a house. I had never owned a house until now, really. Except that other time we lived in New York, but it was so short-lived we couldn't... Anyways, she owned a house, and that's all I wanted to do, but I wasn't at the time. She was in Arizona, which is all I wanted, where I wanted to be at the time, but I wasn't. And she's showing me her house, and it was so nice. And she goes, Al, I hate it. I'm like, what? She's like, I hate it. I hate where I am. I hate this dang house, and I've cried every day for an entire month. And I'm thinking, what? A month? She's cried every day because she hates where she is? She doesn't like where she was brought. I would have killed to be exactly where she was in every... Sorry, are you there? You here? Mostly I was just caught up with the thought of, how could you be this upset for this long when you don't even know what's going to come? You don't even know what's right around the corner. Like, you just got there. God just brought you to this new season of life. Like, there's so much possibility. So much could blossom here. How could you be upset for this long when you don't even know what's coming? And as soon as I had that thought about her, I'm like, I wish I could have those thoughts during my times of wonder and doubt. I wish I could have that clear of thinking when it's my time to not like where I am, because surely I have had so many times where I have not liked where I have been, and I have pleaded for things to be over and things to be different, and yet I wish I could just, in hindsight, and I try to do it now, yell to myself like, how can you be this upset when you don't even know what's right around the corner? You know what I mean? Those blessings we read last night in Doctrine and Covenants 39. It was blessings greater than you have ever known. I want that. And I believe that that's right around the corner from us. When we see our seasons through, when we allow God to show us how great He really is by embracing the unexpected, knowing that He is guiding us. Yeah, we may not know where He's going to bring us, and we may wonder what it's going to be like when we give it to God fully. But what I have learned time and time again is that all of those moments where I was screaming at Him, wondering where He was and if He even cares still about me, it was every moment I was screaming at Him, wondering where He was, that has brought me to everything I have now. Everything beautiful and vibrant, the best things, my favorite things that I wouldn't dare change have all stemmed from times I've been screaming at Him, wondering where He was, if He's even playing a part in my life. Go figure. So yeah, when we give it to Him, what's He going to do with it? He's going to magnify it. He's going to bring you to those greater blessings that we read about in last night's chapter. He's going to give us, verse 12, power that will rest upon thee. He will be with us. He will be going in front of our faces, guiding us, sanctifying us. How many times did we read the word receive last night? Receive to all of these blessings. Be looking. I have bestowed great blessings upon thy head, and I know that when we embrace the unexpected, when we see our seasons through, when we hold out to see what can stem from him, what's right around the corner, I know that we will see that our efforts and our faith are not in vain, and we will see these promises fulfilled and magnified. So I am going to reread, because I know I kind of read it. D&C section 40, it's very quick, 3 verses. Behold, verily I say unto you that the heart of my servant James Covel was right before me. Now, what we read last night, the blessing to James was his heart is right now. Right now, your heart is right, which is when he was inquiring and learning and willing to serve in the church. He leaves the very next day. He walks away from his blessings, and this blessing is just the day after. And now it is in past tense because his heart is no longer where it was the day before. So he went from January 5th, his heart is right. It's in the right place. To January 7th, his heart was in the right place. Very subtle change of words, which makes the biggest difference. His heart was right. Well, when was his heart right? Well, his heart was right inquiring how to serve and what to do within this church. How can he grow in this church? He leaves the church. Now his heart is not right, in the right place. For he covenanted with me that he would obey my word. He received the word with gladness. But straightway Satan tempted him, and the fear of persecution and the cares of the world caused him to reject the word. Wherefore he broke my covenant, and he remaineth with me to do with him as seemeth me good. Amen. So that's D&C 40, our scripture reading for the night. Maybe the James Covel question tonight, because we asked a lot of them last night. We had a really great discussion last night. Maybe a new continued James Covel question could be where's our heart? Like right now. I know my heart has been good in times of past, but I also know my heart is in the category of was. Where are you right now? Is your heart in the category of is in a good spot or was in a good spot? How can we make adjustments